Hi there, I'm Dale Mathis coming to you from my home studio in Sun City, Arizona. And today we're going to delve into a little understanding of what the different registrations on an accordion are all about. You may have heard me say this is a 16-foot setting and this is an 8-foot setting and maybe this is a 4-foot setting. And what that means is the corresponding pitch or pipe on a pipe organ. So in other words, a 16-foot setting means that you've got a 16-foot pipe involved, which is a very low setting. And an 8, so in accordion terms, the 16-foot would be like the bassoon pitch on the accordion, and the 8-foot would be the clarinet pitch, and the 4-foot in pipe organ terms is a short little pipe, 4 feet. But in accordion terms, it's the piccolo stop and making different combinations of them. And then on the Roland accordion, and I'm assuming maybe on some Middle East accordions, you can also have a 5 1/3 stop, and you can have a 2 2/3 stop. Now these are common pipe organ stops, but on especially American and Italian accordions, they're kind of rare, but you're going to hear what they do today. So we're going to go next to the next segment, so I'll be right back. Alright, so the next thing I want to try to explain is if you look at a piece of sheet music, what does this mean? So this note right here is middle C on the piano, and if you've got your clarinet reeds on, or middle reeds, it sounds like this. And that note on your piano accordion is the C closest to your chin. Okay, so now if you put the bassoon switch on, it's going to sound down 1 octave, and it sounds like this. Even though you're playing the same note, it's down an octave. And if I put the clarinet sound back on, it's an octave higher. Now, if I put the piccolo sound on, that's another octave higher yet. So that plays up here. So if you play your master, which is the low C, the middle C, and the high C, then you've actually got 3 reeds all playing at one time. So I hope this isn't too confusing, but the next thing that I've written down here is, you see a 32-foot stop? This C way down here? That's because on the Roland accordions, we can drop the pitch up or down an octave. So it's possible to play your bassoon sounds way down here in the basement. And I've got a demo of that coming up. And it's also possible with the Roland accordions to play your piccolo switch way up here in the high reaches, because you can take everything up 1 octave. Okay, so for the sake of this demonstration, I took one of the sets memories on the Roland 8X, and I put in a bunch of special registrations just to try and make sense of some of this stuff for you. So I'm going to take you in here to my accordion, and so here's the first thing I want to show is this is the sound of your clarinet register. If you hit the bassoon register, which on most accordions is register number 1, then you will get a sound an octave lower. Now on the Roland accordion, because we can switch octaves, I can take that bassoon sound and I can drop it down another octave, and it sounds like this. Yes, you get some very low reeds. And that is probably typical of what they're using in some of these alpine accordions for the bass side to get those very low sounds. So they're getting... Okay, so that's dropped down to 32 pitch. And then the standard piccolo which is again a 4-foot setting, and that sounds like this. So here's the 3 octaves. Here's the clarinet, here's the bassoon, and here's the piccolo. Okay, so now in pipe organs, and I'm thinking maybe some Middle East voiced accordions, you can also have reeds that are voiced at 1/3. So one of the settings in the Roland accordion is called 5 1/3. And listen to this. Here is the pitch at the piccolo. Now listen to this. It's not a C anymore. It's actually playing a G. How about that? And then you can have an octave higher at 2 2/3. So in this next register, I've combined the clarinet sound, the 8-foot setting, or yeah, the clarinet, 8-foot, with the 5 1/3. And let's see, that one is here. So you get this kind of odd sound. And I guess if you tried playing a melody fast with it, but you're not going to find it in any of our accordions that are for the American market. And then we've also got that 2 2/3. So here I combined the 8-foot setting and the 2 2/3. And then here in number 9, I've combined the 8-foot, the 5 1/3, and the 2 2/3. And then in the my next register, I've added the 16-footer, the bassoon reed, to all of that stuff. Okay, so those are just some little odd things that I thought I'd throw in there. So now, this again, in the standard American accordion that you're going to see, you're going to have the clarinet sound, and you're going to have a bassoon reed, and on all of the old student accordions that they sold that had just a bassoon and a clarinet reed, that came with a bandoneon setting. So if you combine the 16 and the 8, this is the sound that you get. And they were typically called the master on those basic accordions that we all started with in the 1950s and 60s. And if you had a really expensive one, it also had the piccolo reed in it, so you'd have 16, 8, and 4, and so that would sound like this. Okay, now that's kind of, for a lot of the accordions that you find in the US, that's pretty much what they've got, is the master, the bandoneon, the clarinet, and the bassoon. So you've got those couple of choices. Now, some of the newer accordions also have musette on them. And what musette is, that's taking the middle reed, except that they will add more reeds in the middle position. So in other words, instead of having just one clarinet reed, you might have 2, or you might even have 3 in the alpine accordions. And what they do is the middle reed, the clarinet reed, is tuned to standard pitch, and then the next reed will be tuned slightly lower, and it gives you this beating sound or the musette. And if you've got 3 reeds, then you have the one that's in the middle, one that's tuned slightly lower, and one that's tuned slightly sharp. So the next thing I'm going to do is do a little demonstration of how the musettes are created. So take you back here into my accordion, and I'm going to hit my number 13 register so you get a standard musette sound. Now those are the same reeds as this one, but here's a couple of those reeds detuned. So now I'm going to go into the editor on this accordion, and I'm going to just play around with that musette tuning. So here is no musette. Now we're going to add a little bit. Let's add a little more. You hear the beating. Now let's detune those reeds a little bit more. And let's detune it a whole lot. And we're going to go to what they call the Scottish tuning. So that's so out of tune, it's actually kind of annoying. Okay, so those are the variables that you can find in the tuning on these different accordions. And so I thought that this brief little explanation might be helpful for some folks who've always had questions about where do these names come from. So I hope that this was not too confusing and that possibly I have answered a question or two. And I know there's a ton of more questions that you could come up with, but hopefully this will be a basic understanding of accordion registers. So thanks so much for watching. And again, all of my Dale Mathis Edition accordions are sold by Kraft Music in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Kraft Music is one of the largest dealers in the U.S. for any kind of musical instruments. Well, they're primarily a digital company, so synthesizers, organs, keyboards, digital pianos, they are a big dealer in all of those products. They're actually, I think as of last, they are the 24th largest musical instrument dealer in the U.S. So if you've got a need for a new accordion or a want for a new accordion, here's the phone number for my guy at Kraft Music in Milwaukee. Thanks so much for watching today, and we'll see you again next time.